Okay, welcome back everyone to SASE 2021. We now have a Super Mario 74 run by SuperViper doing the 110 star category. So Viper, take it away.
Alright, well, let's just go ahead and dive on in. Starting the timer is going to be a little bit weird, so let's try and get a countdown. About 3, 2, 1, go. That actually worked out pretty nicely. Okay. So Super Mario 74 is actually a ROM hack of Super Mario 64, as you can probably tell. This was created by Logmalord in 2011, and pretty much is one of the first ROM hacks ever to feature entirely custom course models and basically just feel like a complete game. So we're gonna start off with the water level of the game, Azure Abyss. And the category I'm doing is 110 star, which is basically the equivalent of 70 star in SM64, where I'm going to be not skipping any starter requirements, and also backwards long jumps are banned. There are actually 151 stars in this game, so you're still going to get to see a lot of the game. And there's a lot of interesting shortcuts and skips we can do here. Here's the first one I can do. So when you take a crazy box into water, it actually becomes dormant. And then when you resurface on land, it will reactivate. And that actually allows me to make it all the way up here. You're supposed to actually get the metal cap and hit a switch underwater to make some boxes spawn. But that's obviously way faster. Another thing I should mention is that I'm actually playing on the fixed warps version of this game that was released by SM64 Pi in, I want to say, 2015. I could be very wrong, though. It was either 2014 or 2015. And that basically makes it so that every single course and secret course has a unique star and death exit. In the original version of this hack, there was only one death and star exit per overworld, and every single level shared that. And, that actually kind of greatly changes up the route in this hack. These next two stars, I'm going to utilize an interesting mechanic about underwater movement. So when Mario swims into a ceiling hitbox, the game actually moves him down to the lowest point of the ceiling hitbox. So by swimming through this really steep floor with enough speed, I can clip through its really thin hitbox and swim into the ceiling hitbox of that cave. So it effectively just down warps me into that cave. And that also saves a ton of time just from swimming. I'm actually going to be doing that again on the next star, but it's a little less significant of a time save here. So yeah. Just kind of like that. You don't actually have to punch in order to do it, but it's way more consistent if you do. And that's all for Azure Abyss. Most red coin stars and 100 coin stars are just too slow to be worth it in this run. There will be a few coin collecting stars I do. So now I'm going to head on to the next main course, which is Skyward Slopes. And I think this course really shows off this hack's primitive design, because remember, this was released in 2011, which was 10 years ago. And as a result, the tools that you could use for ROM hacking at that time were not very expansive, and you didn't have a whole lot to work with. So in terms of course design, I would say it's fairly simplistic. Where there's not really anything special to most of the missions or anything. It's just get to a certain point in the level, and there's a star rewarded for you. And that actually makes the platforming in this hack, it's the big part of it. And that's what I think gives this hack its charm. Even if it's like kind of old and most of the tracks are just from the original game, there are some custom tracks here and there. For example, the overworld music is actually the flip side theme from Super Paper Mario. You can probably recognize it. But the platforming lends itself to a ton of interesting stage routes, and also there's a lot of interesting skips and shortcuts you can do in this hack. So I just think it's a really good hack for speedrunning, even if casually it's kind of bland. I've been kind of talking over most of the gameplay in this level because it's, again, not a whole lot going for it. I should probably mention right now that I am also doing this run on a keyboard, because I don't have a controller for my PC or an adapter to use my N64 controller on PC. SM64 and ROM hacks are actually totally playable on keyboard, despite what you may believe. There are some limitations, though, which I'll get to throughout the run, but for this hack, they don't usually pose too many problems, and you can work around them. Also, these switch boxes, which do exist in the original game, you're going to see them show up often. Again, there's not a whole lot you can do to... There's not a whole lot Lugmalord could have done to make the missions very unique. So there's going to be a lot of just platforming and stuff. Mario wiggling... Okay, so that actually exists in the original game, too. I should probably point that out. Where Mario... So the animation when Mario has a death exit or star exit where he's just kind of spazzing back and forth like that, that's actually the default animation in the original game when there's no animation played. The reason why you never see it in the original game is because Mario is actually hidden behind the painting. So it obscures it, but it is in the SN64 as well. Also, I completely messed up my star order here, but it's actually not a huge deal. So this is Bowser's Badlands Battlefield. This is actually the first Bowser level. Unlike the original SM64, there's a lot more secret stars in each of the secret courses, and they all take you out of the level, including red coin stars. So the only stars I'm going to get in these Bowser stages are the non-red coin stars, because they're usually pretty fast. Also, I know Mario does that animation of taking out the key after he exits these Bowser levels. He doesn't actually have to hit the key. I still have to fight Bowser in order to get that. Alright, so I'm actually going out of my way here to open this cannon, because it makes one of the stars actually possible to collect, and it makes also getting up to the central tower where the Bowser fight is a little bit easier. So now is a good time to talk about one of the limitations of using keyboard, which is actually a sensitivity. So cannon shots are particularly a problem with this, where you try to you can't really aim super precisely on keyboard without special modifiers, because you could just tap a single direction and it moves by several units. Luckily in this hack, there's not too many cannon shots you need to make, and the ones that you do have to do are not very precise at all. Like that one, there's a pretty easy setup for it. So thankfully it's not a huge issue in this hack, but it can also pose an issue in other circumstances besides cannon shots. So one of the key traits about this hack is that Lugmalord likes to hide stars in places where you'd never think to look, such as right there. So casually, you sometimes may wonder where all those stars are. There's a lot of signs throughout this hack that actually tell you how many secret stars are in each level. So now I'm actually going to go and do the Bowser fight here, which is just kind of, again, at the top of this tower here. And this will allow me to have the key that gives me access to the second overworld. It works similarly to SM64 in that regard, where you need 2 keys in order to access all 3 parts of the overworld. Alright, so this first Bowser fight is mostly the same as the original game. The only difference is that the bombs are actually a little bit higher than before. So I have to move Bowser a little bit closer here. There we go. But still not too difficult. And if you're wondering how I was able to spin Bowser so quickly, I'll get to that later. But for now, that's it for the first Bowser stage. And this is the star and death exit that you would have for every single stage if you weren't on the fixed warps version. By the way, no other modifications were made to the game in this version, only the added warp points. Okay. So, fun fact about this second overworld, it's actually a secret course in disguise, even though it does also have the entrance to a bunch of other levels. So, you can tell because the coin counter is visible, which would not normally be the case if this were the overworld. And also, every star I collect sort of takes me out of the overworld, and then I respawn back in. And it's kind of nice that it works out that way, because you can have some fun with the routing here. So I'm actually going to go around here and collect all the red coins. There's actually 6 stars in this overworld, but I'm not going to be getting all of them right away. There's just 3 I can get out of the way here. And in case you're wondering, I'm going to get a star in the middle of this. The red coins you collect do save between stars, so I don't have to get these all again. And this part's kind of scary, because you can easily fall off there and you have to climb all the way back up. Also, another star in a really stupid location. Alright, I just have 2 more red coins to collect, and then that'll be all the overworld stars I'm getting for now. There we go. Okay, so now we're going to clear out some secret courses, starting with the appropriately named Lava Switch of Eruption. That's just a very fancy name for the wing cap course. And it's over here. I'm going to wall kick between this pillar and this wall to skip a bunch of climbing. And there's only 3 stars here, including a red coin star, which is too slow to be in the route. So we're just going to get the other 2 stars. Here's a tech skip, so I'm going to triple jump off that wing cap switch, and I just hilariously failed that. I was trying to fly into the star and skip that text box. It's actually not that hard, I'm just bad. And then the other star I'm going to be getting here, this is actually one of the first really tough stars in the run, because there's a small little alcove in the tallest tower that you're supposed to drop to. But with precise enough flying, you can actually kind of fly into it. And if you bonk trying to fly in there, you're dead. Because you'll land in the lava and there's no way back to the main platform without dying. But that's all we're going to be doing there, and I also need the wing cap switch. Right. And now this is Dust Switch of Identity. Again, this is just the Vanish Cap course. And that's probably the fastest star in the hack. And yet another one that you're not going to find just by looking around. There's actually 6 stars here, including red coins, so... Again, I'm just going to be getting every non-red coin star. Here's a really interesting strat. So, that walkway is very thin, which makes it extremely hard to go across, especially with keyboard. But there's a very convenient fly guy that you can just use to twirl into that star, which makes it 1,000 times easier. Okay, now I'm actually going to have to go a little out of my way to hit the Vanish Cap switch, because I am going to need it for a couple stars in this run. And there's no tech skip I can do here, because there's obviously no stars nearby. So here we have a nice womp collision there. Here we actually have a switch and boxes star that there's a small little shortcut for. Just like that. And the music here, we have another custom track here. You're not going to be able to hear it too much, but it's the Song of Storms from Ocarina of Time. For some reason, it's very hard to hear in this hack, as if there's ever a moment where the music goes quiet, such as like a star cutscene or you go into first-person mode, the music just mutes entirely. And the other 2 stars here are actually near the top of the level. So you'll be able to hear it a little bit here. Okay, here's here will be a good time to talk about, when the camera is kind of turning to the side during those jumps, that is not me doing that. That is the camera just doing it on its own. The camera in this hack is laughably bad, to the point where it's pointed out all the time by the game itself. So, for pretty much every single course in this game, Lucky 2Cam, the standard camera, does not work for them. So that's why almost all the time you're going to be seeing me use the Mario Cam zoomed out. And even then, it doesn't always work out. But it gets the job done. Okay, so we just got one more star here, and it's just over this direction. There we go. And that's all for the Vanish Cap course. So there's one more secret course I'm going to clear out in this second overworld before we get back to some main courses. And it's over in this direction. So this is the Frozen Slide, and I'm actually going to be getting all 4 stars here. This level is kind of tricky, mainly because every single surface here is extremely slippery, which makes moving about kind of tricky to do, and also getting momentum for these like long jumps not an easy task. Those thin platforms are not the easiest thing to platform across. There's also quite a bit of tight platforming in this hack, some of which you might have seen already. Okay, so now I'm actually going to do the red coins here. The red coins here just happen to be pretty fast. If you were playing this in no fixed warps, this star probably wouldn't be worth it, because, again, you would spawn at the very bottom of the overworld for every single star exit, which means you would have to climb all the way back up to the Frozen Slide every single time you want to get a star from here. Right. This part of the route is a little bit tricky. I've been using that word a lot, but yeah, falling down there and doing that shortcut without missing any of the red coins is not an easy thing. And you actually have to be careful when you're sliding into that last red coin over there, because if you have too much speed, it's possible to clip through that pillar, because it's a steep floor, and then you just end up above the death barrier and die. Okay. As is the tradition with slides in video games, there's a massive shortcut you can do on it. And that allows me to get the star at the bottom of the slide in a pretty quick fashion. And then the last one is yet another star that you're probably not going to find on your own. Although actually you could maybe find this one on your own, since you're probably going to fall off the slide a lot, and oh hey look, there's a platform with a box on it. That's every star from there. Okay, so before we leave here entirely, there's actually another secret star on top of this hut, and so now it's just a convenient time to get it. And we're off to clear out some more main courses now, starting with the System of a Town level. This level kind of goes by pretty quickly. Most of the stars that I'm going to be getting here are super fast. That is actually not the intended way to get that star. You're supposed to go into this sewer system, do a bunch of swimming, and then climb up to a little cliff and then jump over to that roof. But wall kicking up there is obviously way better. And I'm actually going to be doing another, more complicated sewer skip for this star. This is a pretty difficult strat to do. So I can wall kick between these two, and then do some A/B kicking here. And then jump from this slope to there, and I can just do... If you hold A and tap B, you're able to kick up slopes like this. This exists in the original game as well. And there's just no ceiling or out of bounds to keep me from jumping over the edge there. And that allows me to get that star. That actually saves quite a bit of time, because doing all that swimming and platforming is extremely slow. last 3 stars here are actually pretty quick. So we got... Oh. Okay, so I'll explain that here in a minute. So there's a certain building in here. Okay, we're actually gonna do a backup strat. Alright, come on. In case you're wondering how I was able to escape from that Chuckia's grasp, that's actually a mechanic that's also in the original game. It's just never explained anywhere. There's a certain counter that increments while you're that you can increment while you're being held by Chuckia, either by pressing the A button or by moving the joystick from the center to the outside. So whenever I get grabbed by Chuckia or King Bob-omb, you can actually just alternate spamming between the A button and a certain direction on keyboard, and you can get that counter to increment pretty quickly. So some of these houses have pretty janky collision. For example, you can ledge grab on some of them, even if it looks like you can't. And you can also just kind of go through this chimney here. Like I said, this level mostly goes by pretty quickly. Okay. Here is a Haunted Factory. You may recognize the music in here as the Frantic Factory theme from Donkey Kong 64. This level is full of a bunch of different rooms you can go to, all with a unique sort of challenge to them. That's another little shortcut I did there. There's another switch boxes thing you're supposed to hit, but you can just kind of walk up to that box instead. It's very hard to do because of the camera. It's very hard to kind of see what you're doing, so you're essentially doing those jumps blind. Okay, now I'm actually going to do the first 100 coin star of the run. And this 100 coin star is definitely worth it, because this is such a wide, expansive level, so... Oh, my angle there was kind of bad. So you're probably wondering, where am I going to get all the coins I need? Well, there's a secret little cubby hole here that you're actually supposed to use a shell to get into, but you can just lava mist your way in here. And there's a blue coin switch that just kind of gives you 80 blue coins. Or 80 coins in blue coin value. So yeah, obviously, probably the easiest 100 coin star in the hack. I'm not going to be combining this with red coins, though, because red coins are too spread out, so it would take forever. Instead, we're just going to go over here and do something like this. So that's just another way to skip having to actually do that thin pathway. If you got a first frame wall kick, you're basically dead there. So climbing to the top of the factory actually doesn't take too long, so there's 2 stars out there that I'm going to be doing now. So if you have any donations to read now would be a pretty good time, because there's not too much to talk about here.
At this current time, but to remind everyone is that anyone who is looking to donate, every $10 that you do donate throughout the entire marathon, you will receive entry to the raffle for the 7 copies of Sensory Life on the Spectrum. It's a comic anthology about living with autism. It's 140 pages long. It features work from over 30 different autistic creators, all telling their stories on how autism affects their lives. If you want to find out more information about Sensory and its ongoing Kickstarter campaign, you can type !Sensory into the chat.
Yeah. So I actually did need the Vanish Cap for that star, because that wall doesn't allow you to pass through it if you don't have it. So there's actually another star that's just at the top of the factory, so we're gonna go ahead and get that. And even though this level has some fast stars in it, movement through it is kind of awkward mostly due to the camera, but also just due to the kind of the layout of it and the architecture of everything. Alright, can I kill this ghost? There we go. That's most... Not only is that movement faster, that's also kind of a swag strat. Okay. So I'm actually going to be getting 6 out of 7 stars here. The only star I'm not doing is, again, red coins. And we got just a shell star to round it off. So this purple stuff is lava, meaning that I actually have to use the shell to get over here. But otherwise, pretty simple. Okay, there's one more star in the overworld I'm going to get, and then I'm actually going to go back to overworld 1, because I don't quite, because there's still a lot of overworld 1 I need to do. That series of wall kicks is a little bit fickle. Right, there we go. And since this is technically a secret course, the pause menu is also present here, which means that I can actually use the exit course feature to go back to the first overworld. So, the first course on the agenda is Toxic Switch of Danger, aka the Metal Cap course. And again, I'm going to be getting all 5 stars here. This is a fairly small and compacted level, so all of the stars here, even red coins, are pretty fast. And this is probably the level with the worst camera in the run, and possibly in the game too, because this entire level is encased in toxic gas, which behaves strangely in Mario Cam, to where if you try to use Mario Cam, I'll try to demonstrate it here. Let's try that again. I'm trying to do another text skip here. So you notice that the camera kind of just went above Mario. That's just what happens when you go into Mario Cam in this level. So I basically have to use like YouTube Cam in order to see what I'm doing. Let's do red coins now. Again, red coin star here is pretty compacted. All the red coins are just kind of right next to each other, so this is one of the few coin collecting stars that's worth it. Okay, so Malcap's going to run out here, and you'll notice I'm going to start losing health pretty quickly. I shouldn't have to worry about suffocating. Okay, we should be fine there. So, obviously in casual play, you would want to be like constantly refresh. You basically need to have a metal cap on at all times, or else it's very likely you're going to die, unless you're just unless you know where all the coins are. So it's actually easier to do a triple jump dive to get to that small little ledge, but a double jump kick enables me to do a long jump from there a bit sooner. And final star here. This is another star that's just in a really hidden location, and it's even harder to find in this stage because of the camera. But there's just kind of a little cubby hole there with a star inside of it. Now we're done with all 3 of the cap courses. So I'm actually going to head off to Dice Fortress now. This is actually the first course in the game, but there's a few stars here that require the wing cap. So I had to wait until I actually had the wing cap to come back here. So for the first one, wing cap star here, this is kind of a neat concept where to make getting to this box a little bit easier because it's so high up, you want to start your flight from a high spot. And on top of that little tower there is actually the highest point in the course to start a flight. You don't technically have to start your flight there. You can reach the box just on that platform. But since you have to get the wing cap over there anyways, it's just easier to do it like that. It's just kind of the best path to take. And this little triple jump slide over here, that's just another switch box skip I'm doing there. And here's the other star that you need the wing cap for. So this first course really doesn't have a whole lot going for it. You can really tell that with how kind of small it is, that this hack was designed pretty early on in the stages of ROM hacking. A lot of the courses do get a lot more complex as the game goes on. And this hack does have a massive difficulty spike. You definitely need to be somewhat experienced with this game in order to, with SM64 mechanics specifically, in order to be able to complete it. And this isn't even the Extreme Edition. The last 2 stars in this level are going to be both over in this direction. And for this first one, you're actually supposed to drop to this box from above, but you can also just jump a double jump. A double jump from here is actually just barely high enough to make it. There we go. You need quite a bit of height from that double jump in order to be able to not only open the box, but also get the star. It's a bit tighter than it looks. And last but not least, this is actually, you could consider this the first intended mission of the game. It's just a little practice with wall jumping, which obviously I don't need to do. I've done that already a whole lot this run. And that's all I'm going to be getting from Course 1. There's a 30-star door over here. There's a couple courses behind here. There's also a Bob-omb Buddy that opens a cannon on this first overworld. And I actually want to be able to use the cannon, so even though opening cannons takes a while, this is going to give me access to an entire other main course and a couple really fast secret stars. So we're just going to open it here and then go to Stalagmite Cave, which is sort of the Hazy Maze Cave of this run. Okay, that is not an intended series of wall jumps, but it is a massive time saver for that star. This Stalagmite Cave starts out with 2 pretty big shortcuts back to back that I'm going to be showing off. There's another one here that's just kind of a double lava boost. So by doing... So I don't actually have like estimates for how much these skips saved, but I would argue that both of those combined save close to a minute. Because otherwise you have to go basically all the way around the level. There is a single star / task strat for this star that also involves wall kicking up to here from the beginning, but it requires a bunch of first frame wall kicks, so not very RTA viable, and it's already pretty fast anyways. Platforming across those thwomps can be somewhat fickle, because thwomp movement is actually RNG dependent, and thwomp collision is a little bit messed up at times, especially when they're rising. Okay, so this star actually has a pretty neat concept to it, so I'm actually going to be combining the metal and wing caps here. I need both of these in order to actually do this star. And if you pay close attention here, you'll notice that the wings have a metallic texture. That texture, it actually goes unused in the original SM64 because there is never a level where you can combine these 2 caps. But if you could, then you would see this texture as well. You're on a bit of a tight timer there with those switch boxes, but provided your movement is good, you can make it pretty quickly. Now I just gotta do downwards. The name kind of speaks for itself here. Once you go into this pit, there's actually no way out. And that's all I'm going to be getting here. So the other course behind this 30-star door is actually Ice Crystal Tower, this game's snowy level. And this is actually one of the few levels in this hack that I would describe as linear. It's just kind of a long vertical climb. There's a star right at the start here, though. And those jumps across those platforms, actually much harder than it may seem. Depth perception in SM64 has never been the greatest. So this may come as a shock to you, but I'm actually going to be doing the 100 coin star in this level, and I'm going to be pairing it with the star that you get at the very top of the level. Climbing this level actually doesn't take quite as long as you might think, and there's also a ton of coins along the way. So it's just kind of worth it to go ahead and pair them together for this category. Like here, I've already been skipping a ton of coins here. Also, this is in the original game as well. If you jump on a Womp's back when it's lowered, you can get up to 5 coins that way. There's just no 100 coin routes in the original SM64 that utilize that. I actually have a surplus of coins right now. And there's actually nothing wrong with that. Okay, so here we gotta get the wing cap. You can do this part capless, but it's a little bit faster RTA to use the wing cap. So we're almost there. And there's just a blue coin switch here. And that kind of gives me all the coins you need. So, might seem like that took a while, but again, this is actually worth it for this route. And there's only one other star I'm going to get here again, because even though I just got the star at the highest point of the level, most of the other stars require a heavy amount of climbing. So I couldn't do that shortcut in the 100 coin star, but that wall jump does kind of exist. It's actually a little tricky to set up. You might have seen this while I was doing the 100 coin route, but there's another star that's just kind of halfway up this tower. And it's just kind of the halfway reward that this game gives you for making it to, as the star name says, almost to the top. There we go. That's all I'm gonna get there because, again, the other star is red coins, which takes over a minute, and then the other 2 stars you need to climb a decent chunk of the tower, and there's also a King Womp fight that just isn't worth it. Okay, that was slow. So using this cannon, there's a few different things I can access. First of all, there is a toad star up here. Just like the original game, there are 3 toad stars, and this is the first one. And also, on top of the tower where the first Bowser course was located, there's actually a MIPS. Although this one doesn't try to run away from you, so you can pretty easily just grab it. And there's another free star right there. I do have to use the cannon again, though, in order to get back up to the top and get to the next course, Overheating Oasis. That happens often. It's kind of hard to get a fast cannon shot there. You could kind of consider this game's desert level. And we're going to kind of continue the routine of collecting every star here except reds and hundreds. I did not want to do that. There's a pretty easy way back up, though. There we go. And this is a good example of even Mario Cam kind of being bad to use, because when it zoomed out like that, it wasn't really designed to work in such tight spaces. So that's why I had to zoom in there. And even then, it can still get stuck on walls and everything. The camera's just a mess in this hack. And that's also continuing the tradition of stars hidden in locations that you probably wouldn't know about. I have to do this climb again because, again, there's just another star that's at the top of this mountain, or I guess you could call it more of a tower. So I don't really have much to say right now. If there's any plugs you want to make, or if any donations have come in, now would probably be a good time to make those.
Yeah, sure thing. So, I'm going to plug the incentives. So we do have currently a list of open incentives. You can type !open bid wars to see the current bid wars. That includes a set of naming conventions for Final Fantasy Legend 2, and also another one for the episode name for Fire Emblem Awakening. Alongside of that, there is a couple other polls, including for the run tomorrow for Octopath Traveler, which is choosing the character. For One Step of Eden, you can choose the category, or whether it will be pacifist or neutral. Neutral is ahead by about $20. And then in Ghost of Tsushima later on today, there is a open choice for naming the horse.
Okay. So the last star in Overheating Oasis actually is another one of the faster stars in this hack. Because near the start there's a temple here, and you're supposed to use another switch box to get to this star. But it's actually possible to just walking up to it. And just like the original SM64 as well, there's also a second MIPS that spawns at 50 stars after the first one. That spawns at 15. So I can go ahead and get that now. And then I actually have to make sure I save after collecting this star, because after I collect this star, I'm actually going to reset the ROM. And, so let's wait here. So there's a couple of error messages I gotta get through, and there we go. And I'll explain why I'm doing that later, because I do actually have to do that in order for this route to work out. But just know that it is important. And also, it kind of places me right here, where there's actually another Toad Star I can access. And that's all of Overworld 1 that I'm going to be doing. Now it's back to Overworld 2. So there's a 50-star door here that I couldn't open when I was here before, and this actually leads to Bowser's Aquatic Castle, which is the second Bowser course. But before I do that, we have the final star of Overworld 2 here. Just kind of, again, tucked away into a corner there. And for the first star in this level, I'm actually going to get to show off one of the advantages of using keyboard, which is that it makes a certain technique much easier to do, and that's actually called frame walking. So there are certain types of slopes that the AB kick and triple jumps just don't work with, but there is a way to climb up some of them, and that's by, you kind of saw it there, I was able to, that ended up being really fast, but if you switch between holding neutral and forward on the control stick almost every other frame, it's actually possible to just kind of stutter walk up slopes like that. Hence the name frame walking. And with keyboard, it's a lot easier since you can just mash a direction instead of having to wiggle the control stick back and forth. Alright. I actually meant to hit that switch, but I kind of missed it. But there's another star that's in this direction anyway. And this is actually another kind of disadvantage, but this is both a camera disadvantage and also a keyboard disadvantage here. And when you only have 8 angles to work with, sometimes getting specific angles for jumps like that can be... It can be difficult. Alright. So let's actually try and hit the switch this time. Alright. That Goomba might be an issue, because you are on a somewhat of a tight timer here. Okay. Still made it. So yeah, going back to a keyboard sensitivity, there's certain jumps that you're going to see me buffer an angle for. Where sometimes if I'm jumping in place, setting up for a jump, that's usually just so I can get the angle a little bit easier. And I also might fiddle with the camera a little bit. There we go. That star has a little bit more platforming that's required than that, but it's easy to get up there just with a triple jump wall kick. And the red coin star here is definitely not worth it, because it takes almost 2 minutes, and you get taken out of the level, and getting to the Bowser fight is actually one of the fastest Bowser courses to get through in all of SM64 that I've seen. Because it's just kind of inside this tower. And again, this fight is mostly the same. There's just a couple fewer bombs you have to work with, and also some added fire. Although the positioning of that added fire makes getting this throw a bit... it's a bit tougher to execute. You have to be in a somewhat precise location in order to actually grab Bowser there without getting burned. In case you're wondering how I'm able to spin Bowser so quickly on keyboard, you can actually just hold right and mash left, and that just kind of acts as if you're spinning Bowser at maximum speed. It's a lot easier than having to switch between all 4 directional keys at once. So now I have the key to the 3rd overworld, but there's one more course in overworld 2 I can clear out. And there's actually a couple of pretty difficult stars here. Casually and speedrunning. Alright. First there's another fly guy strat I can do here. To skip out on a bunch of platforming. It's actually pretty difficult platforming, so it's kind of nice that exists. There's a couple other ways to skip up to that platform. And for me personally, this upcoming star is one of the hardest stars in the run. Because I'm gonna maybe play it safe if I get lucky with the fly guy near this star. But otherwise I'm gonna have to go for a somewhat risky series of long jumps. So, okay, that's not good. I got my jump eaten there. Okay, let's see what this fly guy decides to do. Okay, it's not going to cooperate. That long jump that I just did there is way, way harder than it looks. Guys, if you're too far to the left or the right, or if you just veer off to one direction, you fall all the way down. And the camera gets kind of stuck on a wall, which makes it even harder to set up. So I'm actually kind of glad I got that first try. Because otherwise that would have been like a 30+ second time loss. So we can do a series of walk kicks here to take a little shortcut up this windmill. That star grab is a little awkward. Again, due to the camera, but also you just kind of have to do a weird jump around that wall there. Okay, so in the fastest route for this category, you actually don't do this star, but in order to make that route worth it, there is a strat you need to do for a star in Ice Crystal Tower that is basically, that for the longest time was TAS only and then IL only, but it's a very precise way to collect a star that's located right at the start of the level, but the trick is like a 5% success rate or something, and I haven't even learned it. So in replacement, I'm just doing this King Bob-omb fight. And King Bob-omb works the same way in this hack, it's just that the platform is a little bit smaller. And there's also a fire spitter to make your life miserable, but as long as you're careful about it and your positioning is good, it's not that much harder. Right. And for this final star, I'm actually going to show off something that's not actually faster RTA, but it barely loses time and it looks pretty cool. So to get the star normally, there's just a hidden wall that you have to go through, but you can also just kind of do this. I have no idea why that works, it just does. And that's actually like barely slower than doing that star the normal way. But again, it's not that big of a difference, so I figured for a marathon I'll show it off. This key door animation is a little wonky for reasons we don't quite understand. Okay, so here is Overworld 3. We're back to this just being a regular part of the overworld. And we're going to start with Swampy Spring. So this Koopa the Quick Race is actually the reason why I reset the game earlier. Because for some reason, entering Stalagmite Cave and then leaving it actually causes this Koopa the Quick Race and pretty much any object that has waypoints for its pathing to kind of forget its route. And as a result, if I didn't reset the ROM and tried to do this race, Koopa the Quick would just run off in one direction and never actually finish the race, which would make this star impossible to get. And the only way to fix it is by resetting the game. Which actually doesn't lose too much time, and that star is definitely worth it. Okay. So that's the freebie star of this level. The rest of the stars here range from somewhat tough to downright stupid. Okay, so you got a tight triple jump to make there, and you also have to make sure that Heave-Ho is in a good position. You basically need that Heave-Ho to be stopped, because even if you're on that tiny ledge, and if it's facing you, it can flip you all the way off. So in order to make that cycle, you basically need perfect movement. So I put a lot of time into that one star. I can use this flagpole here for a little bit of a shortcut. Alright, we got another switch boxes star here. This star is somewhat scary. You don't actually want to get a ledge grab on that second box, otherwise you won't be able to get enough momentum to make it to the third box. And also getting the star is just kind of a blind thing because, again, depth perception. Luckily I got that first try. Alright. We're just going to kind of go back and forth between the pathways I choose to take here. So we haven't seen one of these in a while, so there's just some kind of obscure platforms over here that lead to this alcove. And there's just another star there. Not quite as hidden as some of the other stars in this hack, but still kind of obscure. And then lastly, there's just you might have noticed this star when I was going to get the switch boxes star, and that's just going to be the one I collect. I'm going to be kind of taking the same path to it. Kind of have to be careful when you're platforming here, especially with keyboard. Because it's really easy to get ahead of yourself and then you just fall off because you have the wrong angle. Okay. So we're going to do the main courses here a little out of order. I'm actually going to go here, and I can lava boost here. Okay, that was strange. I can lava boost here to get to the third and final Toad Star of this hack. And there's also a wing cap here, which I need to get to the next main course. Which is a Cliff of Wrath with the hilarious acronym COW, or COW. Okay. And this is a level that benefits greatly from the fixed warps, because, again, if the warps, I'm gonna spawn like right next to the pipe after I leave this, after I get stars from here. But in the original version, I would have to go all the way up to the top of the tower and get the wing cap again. And as a result, there's actually a couple of additional stars in this course that you wouldn't normally do if this were the original version. Okay, this strat here is kind of cool. Let's see if I can pull it off. Wow, first try, that was really good. So there's actually a vanish cap near the top of the course that you're supposed to use to be able to go through that fire and break the box, but it's just barely possible to kick above the fire and break the box that way. I'm actually kind of surprised I got that first try. That is a very, very tough strat to do, especially on the first try. Okay, we got some more tight platforming here. So for that first long jump, I actually intentionally tried to aim short, because there's a bit of an annoying thing when using keyboard where you can make a jump, but then Mario still has momentum when he lands. And then he just walks off the edge and dies. So to avoid that, for jumps like that, I'll just try to go for a ledge grab instead, because then I won't have to worry about Mario having that extra momentum. Okay, so there's 2 stars, other stars I can get by going to near the top of the cliff. And again, these stars you wouldn't actually do in the no fixed warps version of the game, because it would take too long to get to the course for the amount of time it would save. Also, yeah, the camera when you exit some of these third overworld stages is magnificent. Okay, we gotta do another trek up to the top of this cliff here. And even though this isn't necessarily a ghost-related level, there's a lot of boos here. So there's also a King Boo fight you can do. And again, King Boo kind of functions the same way. And for the umpteenth time, that's all stars except reds and hundreds, which is all I'm going to be getting there. So I'm going to wait for the camera to come back to me, and then there's actually another wing cap here, which I can use to get to the final secret course of the game, not counting the last Bowser stage. So this is a Champion's Challenge. It's just a short little obstacle course. Also, I hope your left ear enjoys the music in this level. This is an Eternal Star for Mario Party, in case anybody's wondering. Yeah, there's a couple of shortcuts you can do to make this go by a little bit quicker, but it's just a fast level overall. And then this is Sunny Beach. So I'm going to start off here. This strat, for me anyways, I don't know. It's actually, for me, this strat is actually slower. You can just kind of wall kick between that wall and the other wall to get up here. It is faster in some situations, and I think it's just the way I set it up, but it's actually kind of slower for me. But it doesn't lose that much time over what I would consider, what for me would be the faster way to do that, so I figured for the marathon I'd show it off. So I'm only getting 4 stars here because one of them is the secret star, which is like almost a minute long. And then the 100 coin star here is the worst star in the game. Because there are exactly 100 coins in this level. And it takes like over 6 minutes to do RTA. So yeah, that's just not going to happen. We got a big bully in here. Other than the 100 coins, though, the stars I'm going to be getting here actually aren't too hard. That's kind of the nature of this level. The star names don't actually correlate with their missions at all. And that was actually done intentionally. There's a lot of stars in this hack that have very, very vague hints for their existence. And some of the mission names don't do a very good job of telling you what you're supposed to do. Alright, that was nice. I was able to avoid not having to touch the water there. That's actually a little hard to do. So I needed to go out of my way to hit that switch in order to open that gate. Okay. So here's another star you're not just going to find casually, because it's just kind of underneath this bridge. And that's it for Sunny Beach. So at this point, the last remaining stars of the run are going to be inside this little temple here. Starting with a molten treasure chest here. So this course is a bit of a strange one. Its layout is interesting, to put it that way. There's not really an intended way you're supposed to do many of the stars in this level. Especially when it comes to navigating between the mountains. And okay, that first star, I'm glad I got that. You basically need, like, cannon speed level flight in order to be able to fly up high enough to get to that star. Right. So this course also contains the third and final 100 coin star I'm going to be doing in the run, and I'm actually going to be pairing this with a secret star. And the reason why this 100 coin star is worth it is because this course actually has the most coins out of any course in this hack. Okay, I'm actually gonna, we're just gonna do a different star. There we go. We'll just do that. This course actually has 255 coins in it, which is actually the maximum amount of coins that can be saved for a coin score in SM64, because it's only 8 bits. And the main reasons for that is that there are 2 blue coin switches that give tons of blue coins, and also there's just a bunch of coins on top of the mountains. Alright, there we go. That being said, I still kind of have... This coin route still requires me to be very efficient with what I do here. Alright. So here's the first of the 2 blue coin switches. I don't know why the timer continues going, because there is another set of blue coins, but I don't believe it spawns. So yeah, for the most part, to get up these mountains, you just kind of have to do that A-B kicking trick. Because there's not really a Koopa shell here or anything you can use. Okay, that's not good. So there's another secret on top of that mountain there that I actually wanted to get. I should be able to just circle back here and get it. There we go. That was actually a pretty good backup strat. And then I can just get my last 4 coins here. That actually wasn't too bad. That's a pretty fast 100 coin star, but there's a lot of tricky parts to it, just because you're doing a lot of flying at high speeds. And once again, with keyboard controls, making those tiny adjustments that you need to make is not always the easiest thing to do. Also, for some reason, every single course in this part of the overworld has the same star and death exits, and they place you right in front of the door for course 15. So, if I didn't... So I actually have to... you're actually facing the door once the animations are complete, and if I were to just hold any direction, I would automatically open the door. So I actually have to kick away from the door. Okay, that was kind of close. So I had to go super low there because ceiling hitboxes actually extend lower than they do visually. So if I went like almost any higher than that, I wouldn't have been able to make it underneath that little hole there. And the last non-red coin star here requires me to open this cannon. Because I actually need this cannon in order to get enough height to reach the star. So one of the mountains in front of me actually has an exposed ceiling hitbox that I could hit if I'm not careful about my aim here. I think I'm fine, though. Yeah, we're good. Also, you could ground pound that star so that you'd fall a little bit faster, but then you run the risk of missing it, which obviously you wouldn't want to do. So that's all I'm doing in Molten Treasure Chest. And here is where the run really, really begins. These last 10 stars and the last Bowser fight, this is probably the hardest part of the run to do consistently. Okay. So this is Ombre Sphere. It's kind of... You kind of can't tell because I'm doing these courses out of order, but this is actually course 14, but upside down. That kind of is paying homage to the Stone Tower Temple from Majora's Mask. And fortunately, in this course, you can access pretty much all of the stars from the very opening to the level, which is a blessing because this level is an absolute nightmare to navigate. Okay. It's actually possible to just jump directly to that star platform from the other side, but the positioning of it is and the angling required for it makes it a very difficult strat to execute, and it doesn't save that much time. So yeah, these last two sphere levels are really where the game tests your platforming ability. And believe it or not, those were the 3 easy stars. The next star I'm going to be doing is extremely tough for casuals to do. So it's called Intense Challenge for a reason. So there's a platform over here that just has 5 secrets on it. And it's getting to the star that's the hard part. So I had to ground pound on that slope. Otherwise, Mario wouldn't slide down it normally, and I wouldn't be able to jump off of it. Okay, this is actually not the intended way to get to this star, but it's actually quite a bit easier than doing it the intended way. Which is saying something because it's still very challenging to get consistent at. And then there's this star, Flight for Sight. Let's see how many attempts this takes me. Wow, I got that first try. There's actually an axe-specific wing cap that spawns on that star that you're supposed to use to get to that star, but it is just barely possible to get that capless. That is definitely one of the hardest strats in the run. And now I have Luminium Sphere, which is, I would say, equally as difficult, but for different reasons. So let's start with what I would consider the easiest star in this level, just to get that text box out of the way. So you can probably tell that the geometry was more meant for this level, and then Course 15 just has it flipped upside down. Okay, now we have, probably for me, the hardest star in this run. And there's actually a pretty big shortcut you can do for it. So doing the star the intended way is just an absolute nightmare, but doing it this way is equally as challenging. Because you're basically doing a blind jump there. And getting the angle required for all of that to work out is not an easy task. Okay. And then these last 3 stars are pretty lengthy. So for the longest time, we actually took an alternate route to get to this star. Or actually not the longest time, this has been done this way for years, but this is actually the intended way to get to this star. There is an alternative way you can do that's a little bit slower, but slightly easier. That basically requires you to get to where star 2 is and then jump down from it. But doing it the intended way is actually a few seconds faster. Okay. It really sucks that the sphere levels are at the very end of the run. Okay. So I'm going to do star 1 here. And here I actually have to wall kick between these switch boxes, which is actually a bit more challenging than you might think, because if you get first frame wall kicks, the boxes actually push you downwards and cause you to lose a ton of height, and it's extremely hard to back it up if that happens. So you kind of have to intentionally delay your wall kicks. Right, and this is the last star of the run. And this star kind of speaks for itself, but it's not quite as challenging as the other ones, but it's pretty scary, because like a single mistake here can cause you to die. You'll see what I mean here in a minute. Also, like Kichicam actually makes some of these wall jumps a little bit easier, because the camera doesn't go below you. So that's why I switch between the two when I'm doing these levels. Okay, I played it very risky there by holding back, but you made it. So that is 110 stars, which means I can enter the final Bowser level without having to do any stupid sequence breaking. So this is the minimum amount of stars required to beat the game the intended way. And here's Bowser's Crystal Palace. So normally to get through this level, you have to do this like 2-minute long gauntlet in order to get to the end and open a cannon that allows you to make your way straight to the end, but using some tight jumps here, it's actually possible to just go through these holes without actually using the cannon. And we're already at the final Bowser fight. So the main differences with this Bowser fight is that there's a little bit more fire, and also the platform is already star-shaped. So I actually have to make all 3 throws. And it's just as bad as in the original game. Okay, that's 2. Okay, so I'm going to utilize a little something here. I'm going to touch Bowser's tail to store a little flag, and then run in front of him, and that allows me to just kind of automatically grab his tail like that. Okay, so that's 3. Alright, time is going to be coming up very soon. It's going to be when I touch the Grand Star. Also, I haven't mentioned it yet, but a lot of the text in this game is pretty hilarious. Get ready, and time. So I got a 1:14, roughly a 1:14:49. So that is actually a PB by over a minute and a half. That was a very, very, very solid run.
So congrats on the PB, Viper.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so is there anything that you want to sort of plug, or if anyone who's looking to either play the game casually or to speedrun it?
Yeah, definitely check out the SM64 ROM hack community. There's a lot of really good players. Also, I'm actually going to be doing this run again for Speed Gaming's No Kid Hungry Marathon, and I think roughly 12 hours from now. I need to check. So, if you want to see me do this again and try to match this run, feel free.
Okey-doke. So, let's just see here. So up next to follow up on the Mario block, we have these with a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Retro Tracks No Items run. So we will head to an intermission and get that set up for you guys. And thank you very much, Michael, for the Super Mario 74 run.
Yeah, thanks for having me.